Today is Monday, June 28th, and the Supreme Court of the United States has just decided to not take up a case on whether or not a bathroom in a public school can be limited to a student's biological gender. This case comes about after a long battle over a transgender student who wants to use bathrooms based on their gender identity rather than their biological gender. This, of course, has been extremely controversial, has made national news throughout the years several different times, has thrown lawmakers into a tizzy, and now the Supreme Court has just refused to hear the case. So what does that actually mean? Well, let's talk about it. I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a legal and political commentator on YouTube and on Odyssey. Wherever you're watching, go ahead, hit subscribe, hit like, turn on your notifications, make sure you don't miss any videos. Okay, so I am talking about this case. The case is Grimm. That's not what I'm saying about the case. That's the actual name of the case. It is Grimm. It has been going through the courts for quite some time, pushed by the ACLU and centering around one transgender student in the public school system who wants to use a bathroom based on their gender identity or expression rather than their biological gender. This has gone through the lower courts, and they determined that a school district's rule restricting bathroom usage to biological gender actually violated Title IX and was not allowed. That means that, yes, after this decision, because of the Supreme Court not taking up the case, at least in the circuit court where this was decided, it stands that a rule from the school district determining that students must use the bathroom of their biological gender violates Title IX, federal Title IX, anti-discrimination policy, and therefore cannot exist. So this student and any other transgender students, I think this student may have graduated by now, but transgender students are allowed to use the bathroom of their gender identity, not biological gender. And this will probably have a lot of people very, very angry. And this is a pretty big deal. This is a pretty big deal. This fight has been going on for a very long time, and there are lots of people on both sides of the issue. Personally, for me, I don't hate anybody. I'm the nicest guy you'll ever meet. However, I think bathroom usage, especially in the K through 12 education system, should be either completely gender neutral, but completely segregated, as in individual bathrooms with individual locks, individual showers, all of those things, or they should be based on biological gender. I just think that's the appropriate thing to do with children. We are talking about children here, and that is the key, in my opinion. But that being said, that's how I think things should be in a wonderful world of reason and sensibility. That is not how things are. Instead, we're going based off of gender expression, which is going to foment a lot of controversy and confusion and further cloud gender identity and what identity actually means to kids in K through 12 education that are struggling with issues of identity and may not have any idea what those identity issues actually are. Plus, we've got a cultural push right now to kind of influence what those gender identities may be. But that's my opinion. I'm just giving it to you straight, right? Like that's part of why you're here, I think. But let's take a look at this article. It's from Yahoo News. If you wanna click on it, it'll be down in the description. We're gonna get the main idea here. Let me just humbly suggest that I think Clarence Thomas and Saul Alito, the two Supreme Court justices, may agree with me. They would have heard this case. They said they would have heard this case, but those two alone are not enough to get the court to hear this case. That means that all those Trump-appointed judges, they didn't want to take on this issue. Maybe it's too controversial. Who knows? Who knows why they didn't want to do it? But let's take a gander here at the story. Supreme Court won't hear dispute over bathroom for transgender students. Supreme Court on Monday declined to take up the issue of whether the nation's schools must allow students to use a bathroom that match their gender identities. The court declined without comment to hear the case of Gavin Grimm, who's been at the center of a long legal battle with the school board in Gloucester County, Virginia. Grimm was born female, but identified as male after his freshman year in high school, legally changing his name and beginning hormone therapy. Let me just talk very quickly about Supreme Court strategy. So there are a lot of issues in the United States that really need Supreme Court intervention. They really need Supreme Court guidance. And we need the Supreme Court to hear the case and make a ruling on what it is. But it's not always that simple. Some Supreme Court cases get very, very difficult based on the politics of the day and the perception and sensibilities of the justices in the Supreme Court. And I don't know how else to word this other than give it to you raw, okay? If Gavin Grimm was not a female identifying as a male, it is entirely possible we would have a completely different ruling in this case. As in, we would have maybe a different lower court ruling, as in we would have a different question getting up to the appellate court, and as in we would have a different potential result at the Supreme Court. Because, and this is intentional, this is why the case of Gavin Grimm is the one to lead the charge, so to speak, on transgender bathroom rights, is because this is a female identifying as a male. And I think, personally, that some stuffy old judges, right, who are making these decisions might turn a different eye to a boy trying to get into a girl's bathroom than a girl trying to get into a boy's bathroom. Now, look, I know, I get it. That's not what's happening. It's Pride Month and all of that. But we're talking about how the perception of the case factors into the decisions made about the case. And so you notice there's probably a bunch of female to male trans students who have the same struggles, who want the same, or male to female trans students who have the same struggles and want the same fights. They're not getting the attention that Gavin Grimm got. They're not getting the support of the ACLU. I'm sure ostensibly they would love to support them, but the one they picked to go through with this is the case of Gavin Grimm, because I think it's more palatable to traditional sensibilities to have a girl choose to go into a boy's bathroom than have a boy choose to go into a girl's. And it shouldn't be that way, or maybe it should, I don't know, but that's how it is. And it cannot be overlooked that this is the case that went through. Again, we're not talking about some giant muscular football player deciding he's a girl and going into the girl's bathroom. That case would maybe not see the same level of attention and all of that stuff. And I know that there's a bunch of people who are probably going to say, oh, no, it'd be the exact same. It wouldn't. There's no bones about it. When you're picking the Supreme Court case, when you want the one to take the issue to the Supreme Court, right? Like, let's say you're doing a gun rights case and the gun rights of someone were violated, but that person also turned out to be a mass shooter. You're probably not going to take the mass shooter's gun rights up to the Supreme Court. Like, that's just not the poster child you want for that case. Now, obviously, I'm making a ridiculous, an absurd comparison to just highlight the point. You make conscious choices on this thing. If you're talking about restoring felons' gun rights, this is a little more tame, right? Talking about restoring felons' gun rights. Do you want to pick the felon with like 5 assaults under his belt, or do you want to pick the felon who maybe did bank fraud or something like that? you tend to pick the one that like makes it's the most palatable. I mean, that's it here. So here we go. Grimm was born female but identified as male after his freshman year in high school, legally changing his name and beginning hormone therapy. Principal at first gave him permission to use the boys' bathroom, but the school board later adopted a policy saying restrooms were limited to the corresponding biological gender. So the people spoke. The parents spoke through the school board, their elected representatives, and the school board's like, For school officials, as for parents, the question how best to respond to a teenager who identifies with the opposite biological sex is often excruciatingly difficult. Lawyers for the school district told the Supreme Court, but the privacy rights of millions of students are at risk if their transgender classmates are allowed to use bathrooms matching their gender identities, they said. And this is, of course, the issue, right? If anybody can decide they are transgender, whether they are or not, that's what's really kind of the underlying issue here. Whether they're actually transgender or not, you're not really, as a school board, allowed to question the choice, the decision to come out as your gender identity. You're not allowed to question the genuine veracity of that decision. Now, they may be genuinely transgender. They may not be genuinely transgender and may know that, or they may not be genuinely transgender. They may just be struggling with identity and later have go back to their biological gender as their expressed identity. We don't know. And this is part of the concern, is that the school board won't be allowed to, or the schools themselves won't be allowed to ask or test the veracity. Not that you'd have any idea of how to go ahead and do that. That's the problem here. That's what's got people concerned, is this is a question. And remember, these are teenagers. Oftentimes, teenagers shower together for gym class and stuff like that. And there are questions about how to handle that and what the other students' rights are going to be. Personally, I don't know why in God's name we still have teenagers showering together in this day and age. Seems like a problem to me. Seems like it's always should have been a problem, but we looked at things a lot differently when the public school system was really ramping up, and they were looking at efficiency of space, I guess, and just no one questioned it. But I don't think teenagers showering together is actually the smart move anyway. But that's where I get back to my opinion of, we can just go ahead and neutralize this problem by properly having private bathrooms and private shower areas for students. And that seems to make a whole lot of sense, even though it'll change the teen movie dynamic, right? Where all the teenage high schoolers are apparently standing around in their underwear, and we're all okay with that. We'll change that, but you know, that's a completely different sort of thing. And those movies are typically a product of the past anyway. I haven't seen any movies where that's happened in the past 10 years or so. So that being said, that's where we are. The Supreme Court has refused to hear this, which means the win goes to what the lower court said in that circuit. Now, a different circuit can come to a different conclusion. And if they do, we may see this issue come back up as if we see a circuit split. That's one of the recipes for Supreme Court granting cert and hearing a case, is having a split amongst the circuit courts. But for now, in the circuit that includes Virginia, the rule against transgender students is not allowed. And it's presumptively that way in other circuits because it violates Title IX, which is a federal rule, but it has to be actually heard in those circuits before we can fully determine that and to see if the Supreme Court needs to come and settle the dispute. That's what we got for today. I hope you learned something. Why don't you drop a comment down below and tell me what you think about transgender bathrooms? I would love to hear your opinions on it. And until next time, thanks for watching. Peace. Peace.